think it's totally ridiculous. Everybody thinks so. But the entire thing has been a witch hunt, and there is no collusion between certainly myself and my campaign.
That's a question that'll be answered by the investigation, I think. That's a question that'll be answered by the investigation, I think.
I do think this. I think from a practical standpoint, most people would have taken that meeting.
That's a question that'll be answered by the investigation, I think. That's a question that'll be answered by the investigation, I think. That's a question that'll be answered by the investigation, I think. That's a question that'll be answered by the investigation, I think.
Director Comey was very unpopular with most people, but when I made that decision, I actually thought that it would be a bipartisan decision, because you look at all of the people on the Democratic side, not only the Republican side, that were saying such terrible things about Director Comey. As far as my son is concerned, my son is a wonderful young man. He took a meeting with a Russian lawyer, not a government lawyer, but a Russian lawyer.
That's a question that'll be answered by the investigation, I think. That's a question that'll be answered by the investigation, I think. That's a question that'll be answered by the investigation, I think. That's a question that'll be answered by the investigation, I think.
I do think this. I think from a practical standpoint, most people would have taken that meeting.
That's a question that'll be answered by the investigation, I think. That's a question that'll be answered by the investigation, I think. That's a question that'll be answered by the investigation, I think. That's a question that'll be answered by the investigation, I think.
The Russia story is a total fabrication. The Russia story is a total fabrication.
That's a question that'll be answered by the investigation, I think. That's a question that'll be answered by the investigation, I think. That's a question that'll be answered by the investigation, I think. That's a question that'll be answered by the investigation, I think.
Director Comey was very unpopular with most people. But when I made that decision, I actually thought that it would be a bipartisan decision, because you look at all of the people on the Democratic side, not only the Republican side, that were saying such terrible things about Director Comey. As far as my son is concerned, my son is a wonderful young man. He took a meeting with a Russian lawyer, not a government lawyer, but a Russian lawyer.
That's a question that'll be answered by the investigation, I think. That's a question that'll be answered by the investigation, I think. That's a question that'll be answered by the investigation, I think. That's a question that'll be answered by the investigation. That's a question that'll be answered by the investigation, I think. That's a question that'll be answered by the investigation, I think.
I do think this. I think from a practical standpoint, most people would have taken that meeting.
Where does this stop? Where does this stop?
That's a question that'll be answered by the investigation, I think.
Where does this stop? Where does this stop?
That's a question that'll be answered by the investigation, I think.
Where does this stop? Where does this stop?
That's a question that'll be answered by the investigation, I think.
Where does this stop? Where does this stop?
That's a question that'll be answered by the investigation, I think.
What the prosecutors should be looking at are Hillary Clinton's 33,000 deleted emails. What the prosecutors should be looking at are Hillary Clinton's 33,000 deleted emails.
Where does this stop?
That's a question question that'll be answered by the investigation, I think. That's a question that'll be answered by the investigation, I think. That's a question that'll be answered by the investigation, I think. That's a question that'll be answered by the investigation, I think. That's a question that'll be answered by the investigation, I think. That's a question that'll be answered by the investigation, I think.
I do think this. I think from a practical standpoint,
that's a question that'll be answered by the investigation, I think. That's a question that'll be answered by the investigation, I think. That's a question that'll be answered by the investigation, I think. That's a question that'll be answered by the investigation, I think. That's a question that'll be answered by the investigation, I think.
Where does this stop? Where does this stop? Where does this stop?
For his vision, and for his unrelenting determination to make these united states of America great, united America again. It is my distinct privilege to introduce to you my friend, and the privilege to introduce to you my President Donald Trump.
Well, I think it was Russia, and I think it could have been other people in other countries. It could have been a lot of people interfered. I said it very simply. I think it could very well have been Russia, but I think it could well have been other countries, and I won't be specific. But, well, I think it was Russia, and I think it could have been other people in other countries. It could have been a lot of people interfered. I said it very simply. I think it could very well have been Russia, but I think it could well have been other countries, and I won't be specific.
We're going to build a wall.
But we're building a wall. I said it very simply. I think it could very well have been Russia, but I think it could well have been other countries.
Sometimes they say he doesn't act presidential. And I say, look, great schools, smart guy. It's so easy to act presidential, but that's not going to get it and in fact I said, it's much easier, by the way, to act presidential than what we're doing here tonight, believe me. And I said, with the exception of the late, great Abraham Lincoln, I can be more presidential than any president that's ever held this office. That I can tell you. Love to see one of these NFL owners, when somebody disrespects our flag, to say, get that son of a off the field right now, out, he's fired. He's fired!
I think it's totally ridiculous. Everybody thinks so. But the entire thing has been a witch hunt, and there is no collusion between certainly myself and my campaign.
That's a question that'll be answered by the investigation, I think. That's a question that'll be answered by the investigation, I think.
President Trump's former campaign manager, Paul Manafort, has just arrived at the FBI headquarters in Washington to face charges after being ordered to surrender to the federal authorities.
My name is Jared Kushner. I am senior advisor to President
Donald J. Trump.
I did not collude with Russia, nor do I know of anyone else in the campaign
who did so.
Could you once and for all, definitively, sir, yes or no, say whether or not you believe that President Putin and/or Russia interfered in the election?
I believe that
President Putin really feels, and he feels strongly, that he did not meddle in our election.
It's much easier, by the way, to act presidential.
I believe that he feels that he and Russia did not meddle in the election. I believe that he feels that he and Russia did not meddle in the election.
It's much easier, by the way, to act presidential.
Russia's been very, very heavily sanctioned. They were sanctioned at a very high level, and that took place very recently. Getting along with other nations is a good thing, not a bad thing. Believe me, it's a good thing, not a bad thing.
We do not need a reckless president who believes she is above the law. Lock her up. That's right. That's right. Yeah, that's right. Lock her up. I'm going to tell you what. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. If I did a tenth of what she did, I would be in jail today. So, crooked Hillary Clinton, leave this race now.
This is about my position. This is about what I believe. And this is where I stand. I will not be moved. The president must be impeached.
I rise today, Mr. Speaker, to call for the impeachment of the President of the United States of America. I rise today, I do this because I believe in the great ideals. Because I believe in the great ideals. Because I believe in the great ideals that this country stands for. This is about my position. This is about what I believe. And this is where I stand. I will not be moved. The president must be impeached. My position. This is about what I believe. And this is where I stand. I will not be moved. The president must be impeached. 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 I am a voice in the wilderness, but I assure you that history will vindicate me. I assure you that righteousness will prevail. I assure you that no lie can live forever. No lie can live forever. No lie can live forever.
Trump steaks are by far the best tasting, most flavorful beef you've ever had. It's the best of the best.
Trust me, I'm like a smart person.
You want to know the truth? I think it's a disgrace. What's going on in this country, I think it's a disgrace.
Trust me, I'm like a smart person. I'm like a smart person.
it feel?
I'm like a smart
To
person.
treat me like you do. When you laid your hands upon me and told me who you are.
I alone can fix it.
Thought I was mistaken. I thought I heard your words. Tell me, how do I feel? Tell me now, how do I feel?
When it comes to great stakes, I've just raised the stakes.
You figure that one out.
So I just heard that they broke into the office of one of my personal attorneys. Good man. I said, that is really now in a whole new level of unfairness. New level of unfairness. I said, that is really now in a whole new level of unfairness. New level of unfairness. I said, that is really now in a whole new level of unfairness. New level of unfairness. I said, that is really now in a whole.
He has the ball. He has the keys to the kingdom. He knows all the secrets about Donald Trump. And if he were to cooperate, it would be indeed a transformative event.
I said, that is really now in a whole new level of unfairness. New level of unfairness. I said, that is really now in a whole new level of unfairness. New level of unfairness. I said, that is really now in a whole.
It appears that Mueller's team discovered some evidence of crime in the possession of Michael Cohen. Bob Mueller then gave that information, because it's outside his purview, to the acting U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, Jeff Berman, an appointee of Donald Trump. His team looked at it, went to a federal judge in Lower Manhattan and said, we have evidence of criminal behavior here. We are asking for a search warrant to invade the office of Michael Cohen was sufficient to justify the judge. They, the team of federal prosecutors in Lower Manhattan, not Bob Mueller's team in Washington. The judge signed the search warrant. There are apparently 4 search warrants. Raids occurred. The raids occurred. The raids occurred. The raids occurred.
I said, that is really now in a whole new level of unfairness. I said, that is really now in a whole new level of unfairness.
You can't say for certain that the President of the United States is not compromised by the Russians.
Yeah, it is stunning, and I wish I wasn't saying it, but it's the truth. It always struck me and still strikes me as unlikely, and I would have been able to say with high confidence about any other president I dealt with, but I can't. It's possible.
You write that President Trump is unethical, untethered to the truth. Is Donald Trump unfit to be president?
Yes.
I don't buy the stuff about him being mentally incompetent or early stages of dementia. He strikes me as a person of above average intelligence who's tracking conversations and knows what's going on. I don't think he's medically unfit to be president. I think he's morally unfit to be president.
I said, that is really now in a whole new level of unfairness. I said, that is really now in a whole new level of unfairness.
believe me, we're not done yet. The indictment is hardly complete.
A federal judge ordered former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort to jail Friday morning.
I've always found Paul Manafort to be a very decent man.
Former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort arrived at federal court in Washington today to try to convince a judge not to lock him up.
I've always found Paul Manafort to be a very decent man. I've always found Paul Manafort to be a very decent man.
Oh, believe me, we're not done yet. The indictment is hardly complete.
This administration did not create a policy of separating families at the border. We will separate those who claim to be a parent and child if we cannot determine a familiar or custodial relationship exists. For example, if there's no documentation to confirm the claimed relationship between an adult and a child. We do so if the parent is a national security, public, or safety risk, including when there are criminal charges at issue, and it may not be appropriate to maintain the family in detention together.
All I can do is ask the question. My people came to me, Dan Coates came to me, and some others. They said they think it's Russia. I have President Putin. He just said it's not Russia. I don't see any reason why it would be. President Putin was extremely strong and powerful in his denial today. I said the word would instead of wouldn't. You can put that in, and I think that probably clarifies things pretty good by itself.
And just remember, what you're seeing and what you are reading is not what's happening. And just remember, what you're seeing and what you are reading is not what's happening. And just remember, what you're seeing and what you are reading is not what's happening. And just remember, what you're seeing and what you are reading is not what's happening.
What you're seeing and what you're reading is not what's happening.
The Mueller probe should never have been started. President Trump also called the investigation a witch hunt.
The Russian witch hunt. A Democrat-inspired witch hunt.
Oh, it isn't true. Truth isn't true. Donald Trump says, I didn't talk about Flynn with Comey. Comey says, you did talk about it. So tell me what the truth is.
The president now saying that the purpose of his son's Trump Tower meeting with the Russians was to get information on Hillary Clinton.
Cohen said under oath that he made payoffs in violation of federal campaign finance laws at the direction of a federal candidate. That candidate was Donald Trump.
We stand with the incredible men and women of law enforcement. Thank you.
Did you know about the payments?
Later on, I knew. Later on.
I need to open up a company for the transfer of all of that info regarding our friend David.
Later on. But you have to understand, Ainsley, what he did, and they weren't taken out of campaign finance. That's a big thing. That's a much bigger thing. Did they come out of the campaign? They didn't come out of the campaign. They came from me, and I tweeted about it.